was watching a Gila monster eat a baby goat. It's pretty brutal.
A what monster?
A Gila monster.
A what?
You want to see it?
Oh! 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 What the? Holy! No! What the fuck?
Komodo dragon.
Yo, doggy! Ew! Ew! Why is he gyrating like that? He didn't even chew!
No, he didn't chew. He doesn't need to chew. He just swallowed it whole.
That's what she said.
When I've been away from home for too long, my girl swallows me whole.
Wow! You're like, yo, you didn't even chew!
Welcome.
Welcome to this episode of Toxic Crocs. Oh my god. There wasn't even a trigger warning.
No.
How is it that I don't understand when animals can just consume hooves
Well,
and bones?
well, I'm sure eventually, or the Komodo dragon just has the stomach acid strong enough to dissolve hooves and that stuff, or they'll just like cough it up, you know, or it just kind of gets.
Jeez.
Yeah.
We're so weak.
Indeed. Yeah.
I can't.
Indeed. The animal kingdom's pretty brutal.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah.
That was that threw me. That put me somewhere else.
It was it's a whole new world in the animal kingdom.
Dang, baby goat too.
It was a little baby guy.
I guess the big goats have bigger horns.
You gotta be careful with those big horns.
You gotta be careful with those big horns.
You don't know what they're gonna do with the big
I
horns.
mean, maybe you're used to swallowing bones, but you're not used to swallowing horns. Ladies.
As a continuation
Bringing
of
it
last
back.
week.
Bringing it
last
back.
week's.
Professional
Last
comedy. Oh, I
week's.
didn't grab my mocha.
No.
My mocha.
You can't forget the mocha.
Got it.
Pumpkin spice season.
I refuse.
You don't like pumpkin spice?
We talked about this. I won't do it. It's too much sugar.
Well, the pumpkin spice latte, sure, but like other things that are pumpkin spice, you know?
Who did you pick up? Well, the pumpkin spice.
Well, the pumpkin spice.
Well, the pumpkin spice.
Well, today on today's episode of Toxic Rock, today we're gonna some nice episodes, some nice content in today's pop culture, and then we're gonna talk about a few different things, and I have a few topics on hand, and Ryan has a few topics on hand, and we're gonna do it together, and we're gonna talk about it together, and you're here with us.
What if I replace the intro with that? Okay, so I figured, did I already tell you about this? I think I already told you about this, but that like week that we suddenly had like a dip, not week, but the month that we had a dip in listens.
Yeah.
It's because I was trying out cold opens.
Ooh.
Where you play like 30 seconds of the episode
Right.
and then you go into the intro and it's kind of like, oh, da-da-da, da-da-da. Like they're already laughing and then there's an intro and then and then I watched a YouTube video that was talking about how if you think you're not getting more listeners to your podcast, what's actually probably happening is that you are getting new listeners, but they're not. But listeners aren't staying, and so it looks the same, or you'll experience like a drop. And he's like, and the main way to make sure that you keep listeners is by keeping them in the first 30 seconds. And I was like, it dawned on me in that moment. So I went back and I looked at our episode uploads, and the week that I started doing cold opens is the week that our listener count started to drop.
So we just got to start with the JMV beat.
Oh yeah, I just the past like 2 episodes I've just put it back to normal, and our listens have literally started to go back up just because of that.
Wow.
So our intro is actually that good.
As soon as I heard like the intro music, I was like, "Ooh,
Oh, yeah.
this is a little dangerous."
The day that we like got it, it was like,
Yeah.
oh, that's it. But and apparently other people think so too. When they hear that and they hear our explanation, they're like, oh, that's what I want to hear. But they're unsure.
Right.
They just hear the cold open. They're like,
Right.
oh, I don't know.
You hear the cold open, and if people take us too seriously, the cold opens are just a little too much.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
I haven't heard that feedback, but also I'm not sure that the people who tell me they listen to the podcast actually listen to the podcast. Maybe they're just saying that.
Really?
Well,
There's people that you are suspicious are lying about their listenership?
well,
Call them out.
Or they're just okay with what we talk about. And maybe that's just throwing me in for a loop. I feel like at some point with the topics that we've covered and the things that we've said on the podcast, they would be like, John, like, what is that? But I don't know. I just don't know. Maybe I'm overthinking that.
I think you are.
Yeah. Maybe they're just listening to it and they're like, oh, haha, that's funny.
Yeah. Because they're funny.
Yeah.
Like, if you listen to the episode.
I mean, the laughs that naturally happen here are not like insert laugh track at 15:45 and make sure to coordinate the jokes so that we both laugh.
No, they're good.
They are. We're pretty. Oh my gosh! Last night, so we're playing Minecraft Realms, right? I'm playing it with some people from. That face. So we just made it, and the people from high school like started a Minecraft Realm, so we started playing on it, and I have two friends from high school, like an older brother and a younger brother. It's all right. Just
sure.
Yep. Don't worry, Ryan.
Yep.
It's all right.
No, go on.
Do you want to be a part of it?
Do
you want to be a part of our Minecraft realm, buddy? What you doing, pal? What you doing over there?
I was just listening to you tell your story.
Hey, what you got?
Don't touch me.
What do you got there?
All right, so you're playing Minecraft Realms.
Yeah.
Freaking nerd.
So there's an older brother and a younger brother that I went to high school with, and the younger brother is talking about crazy girls, and this topic keeps coming up like repeatedly in my life. I have a person I talk to at the gym, one of my friends. He like works at the gym. Have I talked about this before?
I don't know.
No, I don't know. I don't think I have on the podcast.
Okay.
I forget who I talk about what with. And
right.
so
Sometimes I forget if we've talked about something outside of the pod, on the pod, or if it was someone else entirely.
Yeah. On another note, like since I tutor a lot of the same subjects, I find myself repeating like the same thing over and over, and I can't tell what I've told one group of students and not another group of students.
Sure.
And so in the middle of like a session, I'll be like, have I talked about this with you before? And they're
Were
like,
you the one I flirted with already, or was it?
Okay, that's. Oh no. And
Did I already swipe right on you, or?
Oh.
Okay, go on.
That's a throwback to listening.
No. Did I already make you move away, or are you? Okay, you're someone else.
If you got that reference, thanks for listening for this long.
We love you.
But we're talking about crazy girls.
Yeah.
And what's hilarious, I don't understand how the younger brother does it. So apparently the younger brother is just a Wizard of Oz. He's just a wizard. Like he talks about other girls while his girlfriend is in the party chat in the Minecraft world with us. He's talking about how he likes crazy girls. I know.
Okay.
I don't. This is like a whole new world. I don't understand how you can just like do that. So he's talking about how crazy girls, and then we're just going like on and on to make the joke funnier and funnier.
Yeah.
Like he said he was on a call or like working with a client with his business. The business goes to his house, and behind the client's bed frame, there's a hole in the wall. And the little brother's laughing because he understands what that insinuates, but the older brother is a lot more innocent. I don't know how that works.
Yeah, what?
That's what doesn't make any sense to me.
Impartation usually goes down.
That's what I'm saying. How is it going to be a...
What the fart? Okay.
Yeah.
So the little brother's not getting it.
No, the older brother isn't getting it.
Right. Yeah. The older brother's not getting it.
Yeah, the little brother is like, oh, haha, that's funny. And the older brother's like, why is that so funny?
Why is that so funny? Isn't that just where their cable goes? Or
right, exactly. And the little brother's like, well...
Somebody must have been trying to plug in their charger and accidentally poked a hole in the drywall.
I can't really... You'll learn when you're older. And so we went on back and forth about how it's a fun roller coaster, whether with a crazy girl, you don't know whether you're going to make out or she's going to lock you in your basement. And and that's just like the thrill and the exhilaration of the relationship. And so we just progressively got worse and worse about situations in which that would cause a hole behind the bed frame.
I see.
Yeah.
Going back to like the people who listen and our content, I think, because when you and I are just talking, it's one thing. But when we're on the pod, you'll always give me the, oh, come on, And I feel like that's you being like, I'm thinking about who's listening.
Yes.
But the stuff that we're saying isn't even that bad.
No, it's not.
In comparison to like
what we're actually like on a weekly basis that
in
we
our
talk about.
Oh, well, that too. If you just think about like what we, but then also in our vein, like if you go and you listen to other comedy podcasts, we're pretty light.
Yeah,
we're keeping it pretty light. Like
We
we're
are
just making
keeping
it.
it
It's
light.
just innuendos.
Mm-hmm.
We don't even drop f-bombs on this podcast.
We do not.
We don't even do crack.
I mean,
well, I don't. Sorry, Jonathan's mom.
So, anyways,
No, but also, I've thought about it. Like we have. Well, I won't ask. I won't make it like a list or anything. But I have people who I think about too. Who I'm like, oh, I'm glad that you listen. But then it reminds me. It just shows me like it's just really funny. It's just actually funny, and I think that's the thing. Is this just genuine? We're just being real. I think it's funny how like early on in our pod, especially when we had like our first TikTok really go viral, people were like, thought we were just making, like lying,
right?
Not even making things up because it's one thing to like be funny, but they were just like flat lying.
Mm-hmm.
But we're just so everybody knows, like we're coming on 100%. We call it as we see it, and this is just there's no scripting, there's no faking it. It's just is what it is.
Yeah, speaking of faking it, I totally missed out on watching the VGHS for this week. Did you watch the?
Thank God.
Did you?
I was literally in the bathroom trying to scroll quickly through the episode as you got here so that I would know what to talk about. No, so we'll skip it this week.
We'll skip it this week.
And we'll come back next week and we'll talk more VGHS.
Yes, from what I remember in the episode and what like the thumbnail insinuates, it's like their school careers starting at VGHS.
Right.
So we'll come back to VGHS. That's not important. But what is important this week, and a topic that dawned on me this week in class in my business ethics, we're watching a documentary, Merchants of Doubt, discussing the tactics used by tobacco companies to delay the federal regulation of tobacco.
Okay.
So from the timeline, it sounds like in 1955, the tobacco company discovered that cigarettes were both addictive and cancer-causing.
Yeah.
And for the next 40 years, what you see from tobacco is, well, we don't know if it's addictive. It's not addictive. Like they testify in front of Congress saying that it's not addictive and that it doesn't cause cancer.
Wow.
So they were intentionally misleading the public about their own findings. And it was comparing it to, in today's world, with global warming and the things of that nature, which global warming, don't want to get into, not too interested about that topic.
Yeah.
But what I thought was interesting is they compared the strategies used by tobacco companies to the same things that magicians use to coordinate their routine.
Like, hey, look over here.
Right. And a little known fact, Ryan does some magic.
Very little?
Very little. But I want to discuss
Poquito. Tiny bit. I do magic that like children appreciate.
Right.
Yeah.
So you understand bits and pieces of magic.
Yes. Okay. When I was a kid, yeah, I was like one of those kids that went really far. With
Right.
It. Like I had the backpack of like street magic tricks.
Yes.
And would like do tricks in banks.
Yes.
I used to have a rig at all times in my jacket so I could pick up any pen.
Right.
And then make it disappear.
That's sick.
And so, like, people would be like, oh, look at this little kid. And I'd walk into a bank, and then I'd grab the pen off the counter and go, boom, and the pen would disappear. And they'd be like, oh, wait. Wait a second. So I was cool for like 2 seconds.
And one of the first times I went to Applebee's for young adults with you guys, you showed me, like, the tearing paper trick.
Oh, the napkins.
The napkin trick.
That's right.
Yes. And there are elements of misdirection that make it effective. And I just want to go into misdirection and how it kind of applies to life. So the first element of misdirection, and we've kind of discussed this before on the podcast, is like directing a person's attention. So when we were discussing and covering the aliens, it was also the same trial as Joe Biden's son.
Oh yeah. The laptop.
Right.
Yep, same time or whatever.
So misdirection. So tell me, Ryan.
Okay.
How do you effectively direct someone's attention to get them to see what you want them to see and not what you're actually doing?
Well, usually it's like I know I have to fart.
Mm-hmm.
Like I know it's gonna be loud. Like I know whether I pinch or whether I spread. Like no matter what, it's gonna be a squawker. So
We're gonna. That's gonna be a topic for. We're gonna get to the the levels of farts a little bit later.
So that's just like a good time to like push a white girl's hydro flask off the table, you know? That's misdirection.
That's misdirection.
Like, oh, I slipped and clang. Oh,
whoopsie daisy.
That was the weirdest sounding hydro flask I've ever heard.
Oh my gosh,
What the
that's
hell do you have in there? This
crazy.
girl's weird. This girl's weird.
Why did you?
She has crazy eyes, and everyone's looking at her like, ew. What does that smell? Every time I look at her, it just looks like she smells like farts, and you're running away like. Yeah, so that's misdirection. No, I know what your real question. The real answer is misdirection takes charisma, and every magician has charisma, even if they seem really low key. Like there's like muted performers,
Right.
but they have charisma. I think people think charisma and they think like out there and loud and like the life of the party, but it's like charisma is just the ability to capture people. And the real, I mean, it is. And the charisma is a confidence to like take people on a journey. So whether you're loud and you know boisterous or you're quiet and whatever it is, but it's like, oh, you know, if I want to do something in my right hand, but I'm going to misdirect you with my left hand, I'm almost taking you there. I'm going to lock eyes with you and I'm going to be like, oh, here, and you're not just moving your hand, but your whole being. You're like, oh, and see now this is going to happen, or I don't know. It's just it takes a level of like, I've captured your attention and now I get to put it wherever I want while I, you know, slip the torn pieces of this napkin into my back pocket to, you know, wipe up my tracks later.
The little squawk.
Yeah.
The little squawk.
So that later when I have to push over a hydro flask, I have something to wipe the tracks off of my tighty whities. That's what you do with the remnants of your magic trick. You got to do the napkin magic trick a lot so you have an excuse to keep shoving napkins in your pants. Why does that magician look so caked up? Oh, don't worry. It's just napkin fragments he keeps shoving in his pants.
You're just the napkin magician?
Yeah, man. Hemorrhoids are no joke.
Oh, okay.
Why does all of this guy's magic tricks involve like bathroom stuff? He's always making urinal cakes disappear and
urinal cakes? Like
yeah, urinal cakes disappear.
Like,
not even appear, just taking them straight out of the urinal, still dripping.
Like the things that make the urinal not smell like
Yeah,
pee.
exactly. The ones that you try to pee directly in the middle of so you can eventually wear a hole through. But you have to stand back so that it's not splattering all over your shirt.
You have the priorities in this case.
Of course. Yeah.
Right.
Right.
Is the urinal cakes.
So that's misdirection.
So that is misdirection.
Go
also,
on.
another
I'm derailing.
Component of magic and misdirection is the sowing of reasonable doubt. Of like you doubting what you see.
Oh, for sure.
Like, for example, there was a trick in Hollywood where they would make a woman float.
Yes.
And the immediate skepticism of there has to be a wire or something is combated by sowing the reasonable doubt of like your own senses by passing a hoop over the person to show that there was no wire.
Right. Go on.
And
reasonable doubt. Sorry. I want to contribute to your point.
And like sowing the reasonable doubt is the information that you're fed doesn't even necessarily have to be truthful. It just has to make you doubt a decision. Whether the decision made of what you saw you really saw. So for example, like in the making a coin or a ball disappear in one hand, and the person immediately thinks, oh, it has to be in the other hand. And then they open their other hand to reveal there's nothing there. And then they produce it somewhere else.
Yes.
So they basically take you off of, like, the rationality of your senses in order to take you somewhere and make you like, oh, wow, that's so cool.
Mm-hmm. So that exact thing. So this is like, that's the trick, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's the simplest trick. It's the first magic trick I ever learned as a kid. Was you have something in your hand, you're gonna grab it with this hand, and then you point to that hand, and boom, it's gone. And I remember when I first started doing that trick as a kid, I would do this. I would cover it like this and grab it. And then I lived with a guy for a time, and he showed me that if you put your thumb underneath here, it immediately tells the other person that there's no way that you could have dropped it. You're like, yeah, it has to be, because you're making this contact, it has to be in this hand. Because you're the grab. You're like seeing contact be made. So you're like, oh, that has to be there. And the really weird thing, you can have that back, thanks. The really weird thing, or what I eventually experimented with, and I was like, I want to see if this works. And it did. And I wonder where this falls in misdirection. Is most magicians will say, like, don't do a trick twice. Mm-hmm. But I actually found that this specific trick, done multiple times, gives you another step in the misdirection process. And I don't know what to call this. There's probably a name for it. But if you do the trick enough times in front of somebody, they will start to be like, oh, I know how you did that. And then if you put the object away, like if you actually put the coin away, like in your pocket or something, you let that person be distracted for a second. And then you say, look, I'm going to do it again. And you literally just hold up your fingers like this. And you do the trick again. Well, their brain has told them, I know that the coin is in one of your two hands. I know that you either dropped it or whatever. Their brain didn't even register that there was nothing there. You can do the trick with nothing in your hands because you did it enough times that you put the object in their brain. So then you do it again, and now you open both of your hands, and both of your hands are empty. And then they're like, how the hell?
What did you just do?
How the hell did you do that?
So
you can actually, misdirection can actually become, I don't know, would you call that like Inception? Where you put something in somebody's mind. Like you fill a blank spot.
You purposely place an expectation of something that isn't there.
Right.
Yeah.
So you're like, I know.
You what's the guy who did the, oh my gosh, I can't believe I'm spacing this. The guy who rang the bell and got his dog to salivate on command, even when there wasn't any food.
Schrodinger's bell.
Sure.
Right? Did I just make that word up?
Schrodinger's bell.
That's what it is, right?
Pavlov.
Who the hell is Schrodinger?
No, not Pavlov. Oh my gosh.
No, am I right? Hold on.
Dog.
Schrodinger's bell.
Salivate experiment.
Schrodinger
Pavlov.
Is okay. Wait, but just so that everybody.
Schrodinger.
Shut up. Just so everybody knows that I'm not completely stupid. Schrodinger's cat is a thought experiment, sometimes described as a paradox, where a hypothetical cat may be considered simultaneously both alive and dead. When it... Okay, I have no idea. It has something to do with a cat in a box. Okay. Schrodinger's cat.
So that's
You're dead and alive at the same time.
two of the elements of...
My dad is and is not coming back. Until I know that he either actually went to the store to get milk, he's both returning and not returning. To be fatherless is a paradox.
So that's two elements of the misdirection. Another element, which you see kind of more in the street magic case, with like the card and the three cards.
Yes. Oh, yeah. Find the queen.
Exactly. is the introduction of an independent third party,
Mm.
of someone who the audience believes is independent, but is actually working with the magician to establish that you can win and you can find the queen. So when you do win, you do get paid out.
Right.
But that person is just working with the magician to trick you into believing that you can win so that he can hustle you.
Yep.
And the introduction of an independent third party, I think we want to see someone as like objective and looking in from the outside, but it's really easy to place that person in a position to where they're in cahoots with the party and they're acting in the party's best interest, and kind of misdirecting that. I don't have much more on the independent third party, but
I don't know if you have like an ultimate thing that you're getting to with this, but I have a thing related to misdirection. And it's a news thing.
Right, I was going to kind of apply it to that area.
Oh, okay.
In that sphere of
because I don't want to take your
No,
I don't want
no.
to take the reins of your horse if you're galloping somewhere specific.
Um,
If you're trying to save a damsel from a burning building, I don't want to take your horse.
Oh,
I just made that saying up.
what a nice guy.
That's a saying. Can we start implementing that? Like if you're
If saving a damsel in distress, I don't want to take your horse.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh, damn. That's really good, actually. That's
That
a good
is.
saying. I just made that up.
I'm going to start saying that in class, and they're like, oh, that's
Yeah,
crazy.
it's like I don't want to derail the conversation. Like somebody
Right.
asks your opinion on something, but you're
Right.
like, but if I give my thoughts on this, it's gonna kind of go in a different direction.
Right.
So you're like, if you're gonna save a damsel from a burning building, I don't want to steal your horse.
Yeah.
And they're like, what does that mean? You're like, I don't want to derail you.
I don't want to, yeah. And you just boom,
Dang.
Just-
Start using that.
boom.
All
And
right,
then
go ahead. So misdirection.
The final element they kind of covered is having a scapegoat of like
Oh yeah.
blaming something on something.
Yeah.
But that was kind of the last element.
It was Afghanistan.
Right.
Yeah.
But in
It's
application,
nothing to do with the oil.
oil.
Bush was reading the book upside down.
Imagine you just have a map open and you're trying to reading it. You're trying to reading it. Oh my gosh. You're trying to read it. You just have it upside down the whole time. Why are we going in the right direction?
Hey, that happens in my new movie, The Legend of Cactus Canyon, the trailer for which is now available on YouTube. So the film is coming out November 1st.
Great film.
So consider...
Very funny.
Yep.
Very entertaining.
Yep.
But in case of application, number one, like, understand when your attention is being directed somewhere.
Yeah.
So when you're focused on something, it's really easy in conversation, especially if you're dealing with like manipulative situation,
Yeah.
for your attention to I can't talk at all. Quickly be lost from one way into being directed into another sphere.
Yes.
So number one, pay attention to what you're paying attention to.
Woo.
And like if I'm focusing on this area, I'm not going to allow my attention to be shifted in another direction.
Correct.
I'm going to stay on topic. I'm going to stay on task because your attention is a spotlight
Mm-hmm.
and you can only focus on so many things at once. And it's really easy for that spotlight to move or to be moved.
Right. Who scammed you? What happened?
No one scammed me.
I'm waiting for you to come in. And so with that lesson, this week I lost $10,000.
And the second portion of I guess that ties in with the first and two
I feel like I'm on a soap right now.
aspects.
A scripture, observation, application,
I
and prayer.
know,
You're taking us
that's-
all the way through this
oh
study.
my gosh.
So now let's apply it. Let's pray into it. Don't be deceived. You never know who's misdirecting you.
Oh my god!
I just pulled a credit card out of his ear. See that?
It was in my ear
For
whole
the
time.
listeners,
For the
I pulled a
listeners.
credit card out of his ear. I'm not going to show you the other
Yeah,
side.
don't show the number. So look at this credit card here. That would be really smooth. And then the other part is also pay attention to who you consider like an objective third party. Like consider the person's interests who's telling you things, you know?
I almost feel like you're dropping hints to me right now.
No.
I almost feel like you're about to get to like, so on that note.